Early June is a special time of year at Morden Hall Park. It's when 1,600 roses burst into bloom. The park's rose garden was created in 1921. Nearly a century on, now part of a National Trust property, it hosts a week of rose-related festivities. Gardener Emily Lamey says looking after the garden's 48 beds is a feat of teamwork. She coordinates a group of 12 volunteers.
I mean, I've got some volunteers who've been here a long time, 10 years or so, so they're more knowledgeable than I am, definitely. But equally, I have other volunteers who just almost want the therapeutic side of being in the rose garden and being outside. And again, that's really lovely to see. So maybe they have no gardening experience, but it doesn't really matter. I encourage them and show them how to prune properly and how they've seen then these plants that they were quite scared to touch initially and cut back, how they've seen these plants really flourish and look really fantastic. So for me, that kind of journey for them, it means I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, doing my job right and guiding them so that it gives them the confidence to look after their roses here, but also roses in their own gardens.
Emily says looking after the garden can be a challenge.
Weather is definitely the biggest challenge. And we've had a lot of rain this week, and we've got quite a few rose beds that have been underwater, that are still underwater. So weather is a challenge, and last year, of course, with all the drought, that was tricky, but all the roses survived. They all seem to be okay.
Over time, Emily hopes to restore the garden to its origins.
Over past years, maybe the rose garden's lost its way a little, especially when the council were running it, and a lot of newer varieties of roses were planted, bright colours, quite garish. So we're trying to slowly encourage the rose garden and replant the rose garden to how it would have been back in the 1920s, with a more Edwardian, soft colour pastoral colour palette. That's the idea, and the types of roses, the more romantic, more romantic older varieties that Mr. Hatfield would have been growing. So it's that sort of restoring it back to its sort of Edwardian grandeur.
Emily and her team hope they can keep Morden Hall Park smelling of roses for years to come.